Hi, I am in the Land of Medicine Buddha. The Land of Medicine Buddha is a retreat center in California. I come here every year already for 6 years, more or less, to study with my teachers, Paul and Susie Greeley. And one of the courses that I followed this year was about the Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita is one of the most important texts in yoga. We don't have that many texts in yoga, really ancient texts, but the Bhagavad Gita is definitely one of the most important ones, if not the most important one. Now, the Bhagavad Gita itself is a small part of a much bigger work called the Mahabharata, and it's full of stories and allegories to all kinds of very pertinent issues to us human beings. The Bhagavad Gita itself happens on the eve of a battle. So the Pandavas, so the Pandus, they are the rightful owners of the land, and they have been tricked of their right to own the land by the Kurus, and there are many of them. There are like hundreds upon hundreds of them. I think hundreds, I'm exaggerating, maybe hundreds of them. And they have robbed the Pandus of their land, and they have exiled them. And now the Pandus are back from exile and say like, okay, we've been in exile, we've done everything that you told us to do, and now we need our land back. And of course, the Kurus don't want to give it, and then they're going to go into battle. And the Bhagavad Gita happens in the eve of that battle. And what happens is Arjuna, the Pandus, the good guys, there are 5 brothers. And Arjuna is the middle one, is the third of them. And he is the best archer in the land, in the army, and the best warrior. He's a fantastic warrior. And he rides into the field of battle the night before. And as he looks upon the Kurus, the guys he needs to fight against, they are all his family. They are cousins. They grow up together, and he loves them. He sees his uncles and his cousins, people he needs to kill because they've come so far, and he is ridden with doubt. He's full of doubt, and he says, I cannot kill these people. How am I ever going to kill these people that I love? And Krishna is God, one incarnation of God, and in the form of man. He's a friend of Arjuna's and also his charioteer. And he starts to answer Arjuna's questions. And the Bhagavad Gita is this dialogue between Arjuna, full of doubt, and Krishna telling him what he needs to do. And what he needs to do is to practice yoga. So the Bhagavad Gita is all about yoga. It's all about the practice of yoga. And it's a huge allegory to the doubts that we all go through and that we all experience in our daily lives. The very first verse of the Bhagavad Gita, the very first one, there is a blind king who is the father of the hundreds of Kurus, who are the bad guys who will not give the land back. And he is blind, so he cannot see what's happening in the battle. So he asks, in the very first verse of the Bhagavad Gita, he asks his loyal advisor, he asks him, in the field of the battle between the Pandus and my sons, the Kurus, how did they do? I think you could say it more poetically than I just did, but this is the basic meaning of it. And the interesting thing to observe is the commentary on that first verse. This is the question that we as human beings, and definitely as yogis, should ask ourselves every day or every night before we go to sleep. We should ask ourselves, in the field of this battle between the most noble of my ambitions and the most selfish of my desires, how did I do? And it's some days we're going to have to face the facts that we did not do very well at all, and that our selfish desires. So the hundreds of sons, the Kurus, they are allegory for the hundreds of desires that are always arising in us, as the 5 Pandus, they're the allegory for the 5 great centers of energy that we have in us to help us in our battle. So the question is, between these 5 centers, which hold our full potential as human beings to be noble and kind and good and truthful and enlightened, and the battle that these centers go through every day with our hundreds of desires, how did I do? Some days we do well, and some days we do not. And yoga practice is the practice of asking ourselves that question every day, many times a day even, and to go back into the field of battle the next day with a renewed commitment to do our best and to win, and let virtue and light and kindness and goodness and truth win. Cool.